This video is an attempt to present dynamic range in an unconventional way that simulates real-life performance on the FM band in situations where there are problems with interference from other FM stations than the desired one. So dynamic range is defined as the ratio or difference in decibels between a desired signal and the strongest interference that can be tolerated in certain combinations. And I do this in two signal levels of the desired signal. One is minus 105 dBm. It's not very weak, but it's a reasonably weak signal. The tuners or the SDRs, they are all set for this weak signal to not have the best audibility, but to have some noise on it, and about the same signal to noise ratio for all the receivers. And then there is a second test with 20 decibels more signal and consequently a corresponding gain reduction in the SDRs to make a good but a little bit noisy signal. This is intended for DX listeners and not for hi-fi reception. Usually hi-fi reception means you are not listening to the very weak stations but to some with a decent signal level. If you have a lot of strong signals around, that is. And I placed these numbers here in the beginning. You can reference to them easily after having seen how they are obtained and what they mean. And you can see that if the mouse is visible in the video, hopefully, with two signals separated by 1 megahertz, arranged for the third order intermodulation product to come in the passband of the desired signal. Dynamic range ranges from 75 decibels, which we find in the AirSpy, in the Fun Cube, and in the SDR Play, down to 58 decibels, which we find in the E4000 dongle or in the R820T. And that is of course depending on how filters are arranged in these SDRs. And there is the corresponding information here, and note that from 44 to 73, that is 30 decibels. That is a factor of 1000 in acceptable power level for the interferer. And here is the corresponding information for a frequency separation of 5 megahertz. And here are the noise figures of that I have set the tuners to, or the SDRs to, and I have measured that by measuring quieting in the FM mode. That is a very good method of measuring noise figure, because it is very well suited for tuning things. You just tune and listen for the quieting. The evaluated noise figure comes in this table, and you can see that some deviate strongly. I could not set a noise figure of about 12 dB on the Fun Cube. I could set 5 dB, or I could set something that is considerably worse, but it doesn't allow setting in that range where I have set the other ones, and similar for SDR play. When set to maximum gain, one would expect a good noise figure from all these SDRs. The AirSpy stands out. That's because I made a mistake with that unit. Since it leaks and receives the local FM station with the USB screen as an antenna, I grounded the USB screen, but I didn't know at that time that it is necessary to also ground the coaxial connector for the LO reference signal, and therefore this noise figure is about 4 dB higher than what it is when that error has been corrected. I have uploaded a separate video on that problem. Normally for the FM band one would use a preamplifier, and then the noise figure is not interesting. One should set it somewhere around maybe 12 to 15 dB to get the best dynamic range. And if you have a fun cube, you would switch off the LNA and have even a little bit more gain in the preamplifier and get a good system. The 9 SDR receivers are now listening to the local FM station. For details in the setup, look at part 1 of this video. As the interference source, I have now 2 signal generators that are set 200 kHz and 400 kHz below the signal frequency. That is assuming that the channel separation on the FM band is 200 kHz. The worst case of intermodulation will be the neighboring and the next neighboring channel being strong and intermodulating with each other. Of course, that is not normal really, because the authorities plan channels so neighboring channels should not be in the same location. But you could be a DXer and you can have 2 strong signals by using a directional antenna or something. So anyway, this is the worst case, and I'm going to look at the intermodulation. The generators are set to 90.502 and 90.30 to create a product at 90.702, which will be easy to detect. So I switch on the signal, and the signal is visible in the RTL SDR dongles. They are wide enough to cover 400 kHz downwards. Also the AirSpy, Blade RF, and the ELOD make the signal visible. I will now switch off the FM station to make this easier to see at low levels. So I will step up the level a little bit more, 10 dB more, like that, and we can see something coming up both in the SDR 14 and in the FDM S1. Those are the 2 that are oversampling, and they sample at, if I remember correctly, 66.6 megahertz for the SDR 14, and the S1 I have forgotten. Anyway, we see something, and I will switch off the generators one by one so you can see that it's really there only when both of them are on. And then back on with that and off with the other. So it's quite clear a third order product. If this were intermodulation, it would grow by 30 dB now when I increase the level by 10 dB. Like that. But it's clear they don't grow much. And that's because this is not intermodulation, it's digital feedback, and you can read about that on the internet. The other tuners don't show anything on the interesting frequency. So I increase the level again, 10 dB. And that creates a pretty strong signal in the SDR 14. And it's probably more of digital feedback and not intermodulation. We will see later. Anyway, the other tuners don't show intermodulation. They show some spurs, particularly the Blade RF. But intermodulation is not there. And then 10 dB more, and that causes the level to go down in the SDR14. That's typical for digital feedback. The RTL SDR dongles, they are saturated now because both signals are within the passband. This generator is now adjusted to give minus 70 dBm. As you can see here. So this is the level that goes into all the SDRs. I reduce it by 20 dB. And now I have minus 90 dBm. Not so accurate on the spectrum analyzer because there is also noise in the signal now. I switch on the toe tones, and they are now peak search marker at minus 19 dBm. So I have minus 19, well, let's make it 1 dB more attenuation, like that, minus 20 dBm and minus 90. That is two tones plus a reference signal that I will place close to the point where the intermodulation comes. The two tones are generated, one here and one there. They go through 20 dB of attenuation in each generator to a 3-port hybrid. And one is terminated in a dummy load at this time. From the hybrid there is a long cable going into another room where this 5-watt Class A amplifier is located. It's in another room because it's very noisy, as you might hear. It has a big fan inside because efficiency of Class A amplifiers is not very good. And the output of the amplifier goes through these two stepped attenuator, one in 10 dB steps and one in 1 dB steps. And that is the test signal that I inject into the system, as I before injected the signal from this generator in the first part of this video. Now this signal generator is replacing the antenna. This is a notch filter, the internals of it. It's two LC resonators that are weakly coupled capacitively to the transmission line. It is a quarter wave from one input to the other connector, which is the output. It's symmetric. There is also a quarter wave between two links that couple weakly to the LC resonators. The resulting frequency response is like this. And as you can see, the attenuation reaches about 50 decibels, while the attenuation 200 kilohertz away is about 7 dB. So by inserting this filter and tuning it for the notch to come on the frequency of the IM3 product, I can make sure that any intermodulation generated in the Class A amplifier or in the hybrid or the generators is eliminated. I have added now a third generator to the 3-port hybrid together with the 2 tones, and that third is set on the intermodulation frequency 19.702. I will step it in steps of 10 kilohertz. And you can see, for example, in the R820, now it is nearly 60 decibels above the noise, and at the intermodulation frequency it is about 30 dB above the noise. So I have improved the test setup by about 30 dB by adding this filter. So I switch off that generator and look at the screen. The 2 tones are now minus 20 dBm, and the intermodulation seems to be more or less unchanged. And the lowest intermodulation, where is that? It's now in the R820T. I tried to increase the gain to see if we can see the signal a little bit better. No. Just a single dB and then it goes into saturation. The fan cube is with off on everything, but if I switch off one of the generators here, you can see what is the intermodulation that disappears, and then the other one. So the R820T in the RTL SDR, as well as in the AirSpy, gives an intermodulation that is at minus 90 dBm when the 2 signals are at minus 20. I tried to increase gain in the AirSpy, and you can see directly that the intermodulation goes up far more than the signal. But reducing gain does not improve. So that's depending on how the gain distribution is in this particular tuner, as set up under Linrad linearity mode, of course. The difference between signal and intermodulation is then 70 dB in the R820T and the R820T2 for RTL, SDR and AirSpy respectively. 70 dB divided by 2 is 35. Adding that to minus 20 means IP3 is plus 15 dBm for the R820 dongles or tuners when gain is turned down so nothing else creates problem. The SDR play needs a somewhat lower level on the tones. Like that. Or maybe like that. Well, that's just 1 dB difference. The signal level now is minus 25 dBm. And as it turns out, the fan cube has now also the same level on the intermodulation product and the reference signal, which means it has the same third order intercept point as the SDR play. The two other RTL dongles need even smaller signals, something like that. The E4000 and the FC0013 are equivalent, more or less, and the level for them is minus 28 dBm. To get the intermodulation at minus 90. The blade RF and as you can see, the noise is the big problem in blade RF. I have to make sure I know which signal is which because of all the spurs. That's the reference signal. And I switch off one of the tones. And then everything unwanted disappears. And I switch off the other tone. And then also everything unwanted disappears. So presumably the strongest is the third order intermodulation. Well, I don't know. Yes, that has to be the intermodulation. And there is a spur that is stronger than that. This level for minimum gain on the blade RF is minus 42 dBm. Of course, we are within the passband for the blade RF, but that's true also for the RTL SDR tuners. The two direct sampling, ELAD and FDM S1 and SDR14, they suffer from digital feedback, so I don't try to evaluate them at low level like this. Now I have the local FM station and the two tones, and I'm going to do the subjective test. That's the really valuable test that shows how strong signals can be placed in the two near channels, the nearest and the second nearest channel, without losing the ability to hear a station that is weak enough to be a little bit noisy. So here now I'm listening to the E4000 dongle.
Kanske oväntat en viktig roll för sina söner.
So for example, more likely to have
So 1 more dB than this, and then it's saturated. And this is minus 66 dBm. Of course I can reduce the gain.
Persson hoppas att forskarna tillsammans med samhället i övrigt ska börja bekämpa det här problemet.
But only by about 10 dB. And now 1 dB below saturation is minus 57 according to the spectrum analyzer.
Där vi heter obs i P1 och vi använder hashtaggen obs i P1. På vår hemsida kan vi lyssna på tidigare program.
The FC0013. It's also minus 66 at normal gain. And I will attenuate.
Skicka dig vidare till obs. Och där ligger även en lista med alla verk och tips som är nämnt idag. Här är Emil Söderström och jag heter Mona.
And this is the level that it can tolerate. Minus 57. When the gain is reduced until the station is difficult to hear. Now the R820T in the RTL SDR.
Om lite drygt 2 timmar får vi möta Maria Göransson, förskollärare på Skattkistan i Fränsta i Ånge.
So this is the level for that. Minus 61. And now I try to reduce gain.
Den tyska förbundskanslern Angela Merkel, en kvinna med pokerface och 90 lika vanliga fixadresser. Fördelar klockan 10 efter nyheterna.
Central P1. Klockan 7 hade Ekot först om vargjakten i kammarrätten ja till jakt i Värmland och Örebro län.
This is about where the threshold is. So this is the level for the R820T in the RTL SDR. That is minus 53 dBm. So the blade RF.
Ämnet bisfenol A i kvitton och biljetter. Det föreslår regeringens särskilda utredare Anders Turesson. Ett förbud kan vara på gång på EU-nivå, men om så inte sker bör ett nationellt förbud övervägas, anser. Den barnmorska som inte fick fortsätta jobba i Jönköping på grund av att hon inte vill utföra aborter har krävt skadestånd av landstinget. Idag möttes parterna i tingsrätten, men allt tyder nu på att det blir en rättegång i det här fallet, säger landstingets ombud.
Ja, landstingets inställning är att man bestrider att det var en fråga om diskriminering.
När barnmorskestudenten Elinor Hillmark berättade att hon inte tänkte utföra aborter på grund av sin kristna tro.
This is not saturation in the blade RF. It is mainly a spur. And the level when we start to lose is minus 66 dBm. I try to reduce gain.
I maj stämde Elinor Hillmark landstinget med hjälp av en skandinavisk juristorganisation, bland annat för att ha gjort ett ingrepp i hennes religionsfrihet. Hon vill ha 80 000 kronor i skadestånd och 60 000 kronor i diskrimineringsersättning. Idag hade de båda parterna muntlig förberedelse i tingsrätten.
And this is approximately the limit, and this is where the IM3 becomes too strong. And the level is minus 61 dBm.
Företaget avbryter utvecklingen av affärsflygplanet.
So this is now the fun cube.
Mexiko och USA. På Sveriges Radio. Det är torsdag kväll. Välkommen till fortsatt lyssning på Tolerable. Både du som lyssnar på en traditionell.
This is
Och du som kanske sitter och lyssnar vid en dator.
This is where the degradation comes, or when full gain is on the unit, and the level is minus 46. So I switch off the low noise amplifier.
Ikväll har en berättelse av Amanda Svensson om just berättelser om hur de kan söndra och
and have to bring up some gain. So I can copy it reasonably well at this level. And this is approximately the limit where copy is no longer possible. The two tones are at minus 32 dBm. And the air spy. We listen to it.
Bränslen. Och odlingen ger en massa jobb och pengar till människor i i samband med avverkning. Slutet av förra året i första reportage. Och nu ska vi till Indonesien.
So this is the point where the saturation of the AD converter happens, and that is minus 54 dBm.
Men har palmoljeindustrin
and I reduce the gain.
Minskad avskogning. Ja, vi ska börja med att följa med vår reporter Marcus Hansson till en skarpa gränsen. Ljudet av regnskog som huggs ner tänker kanske du som lyssnar. För att få plats för en. Så att dina kartor ska bli lite billigare. Men nej. Så den här nedgångarna svart. Eftersom istället genom en...
This is the point where the signal gets lost because of the third order intermodulation. Or is it saturation? Well, something is obviously non-linear because we have many signals outside the filter now. But the level where the limit is for the air spy is minus 46 dBm.
Sumatranoshörningar som invånare. När palmerna försvinner får skogen en chans att växa tillbaka. Och också djuren. Men det är inte bara djur. Utan en skog ökar dricksvatten, översvämningar och jordskred. Killen som kör motorsågen till exempel, Sodirman, han berättade för mig i hans hus.
So the level for the SDR play is now minus 46. And I reduced the gain until I cannot hear anymore.
Å andra sidan, palmolja ger 10 gånger så mycket pengar som att odla ris och har gett miljoner. Smälla upp olagliga palmträd.
This is highly questionable that I can hear what the man is saying. If I listen very carefully, perhaps. And this is the level then. Minus 32 dBm. 2 or 3 dB more signal from this station, and then it would be easy copy here. So maybe I would say this wasn't fair. I have to bring up like that.
Resten är lagliga plantager som man inte får göra något åt. Det är tydligt att det krävs andra lösningar än att hugga ner en annan olaglig plantering för att lösa det stora problemet med avskogningen.
So it is probably more honest to say that the SDR play gets a problem at minus 46 dBm. That is to really hear this station, which is close to the noise floor. I have now changed the gain setting for AirSpy and the E4000 dongle and for the Blade RF to sensitivity mode. And you'll see now how strong the interfering two tones may be.
Sa professor Eric Lombard.
So this is the point where the E4000 dongle is not happy anymore. That is minus 50 dBm. But the quality is rather good.
Klotet sänds första gången på onsdagar 5:30 på eftermiddagen.
So with 5 dB more attenuation I can still copy. And now the two tones are minus 46 dBm. And here is the Blade RF.
Och så tar vi en titt på Anita. Filmprogrammet Kino, fredag klockan 14 här i P.
Terrordåd, yttrandefrihet, antisemitism, antimuslimism och rädsla efter förra.
And the limitation is clearly a spur and not the third order intermodulation. And the level for that is minus 62 dBm. This is the level for the air spy. Minus 36. Now the signal to noise ratio in the air spy is reasonably good.
Politiskt, och man förväntar sig också flera åtgärder, kanske framförallt nu bosättningarna.
And the two tones, the level of those required to lose signal to noise ratio significantly is minus 51 dBm.
Men det har man gjort förut. Ja, men inte lika starkt som nu.
I have now moved the two tones to 1 and 2 megahertz below the signal frequency. On 89.702 and 88.7 megahertz. And now I'm listening to the E4000 dongle.
Män är mer än kvinnor därför att män är just män, men även kvinnor måste förhålla sig till det här med maskulinitetsnormen.
Men jag undrar, om vi tar... Vad är det du vill ska vara annorlunda?
Something like that is where the reception starts to degrade. And the level is 56 dBm, minus 56 dBm of course. And I can reduce the gain of the dongle.
Så kommer alltid att handla om ideologi. Är det här extrema människor som står för en
And it's difficult, but I can hear what the lady is saying. So this amount of two tones can be applied. It is minus 49 dBm.
Att benägna att hamna i brottslig.
Alltså, vi har ju gjort en studie då som visar på vår myndighet som heter Unga våld, där vi har ställt frågan om som har uppgett att de någon gång har använt våld.
So this is the level for the FC0013. It is minus 54 dBm. And I reduce the gain.
Det är 3 gånger så vanligt bland killar och det är 2 gånger så vanligt bland
And I can reduce only 10 dB according to the box in Linrad. And this is 1 dB below saturation. And I read minus 45 dBm.
Just det här, vad då tror du? Jag menar att det här är en ytterligare pusselbit. Jag vill inte säga att det här är det enda. Det är också ganska paff. När jag lyssnar på de här terroristforskarna och som
So this is the limit. And the level is minus 58.
Det finns våldsprevention, det finns exempel på hur man har lyckats få ner våldet till hälften. I Street City, i USA till exempel, så fick man
Någon av de här skolskjutningarna? Ja. Det var ju ganska många.
This is about the minimum level to be able to understand something.
Delstater, alla skolor som gjorde klassiska barnskolorna
and the strongest two tones that can be tolerated is minus 49 dBm.
vara som bög eller ha.
I'm now on the blade RF.
De två delarna hade man med hela tiden. Pratade med ungdomar om det, ett ungdomar pratade med andra ungdomar.
Okej, men du menar att en sån här allmän våldsprevention även skulle hjälpa mot rekrytering?
So this is what the blade RF can accept. And the level is minus 40 dBm. And I try to reduce the gain.
Sekundärprevention som handlar om att också jobba med grupper av killar. Där man ser, det är många så att man ser att killar finns samman och det inte finns en bra ledare, för det blir alltid ledare. Men ledaren är en informell ledare, traditionella ledare, faktiskt knäckliga värderingar. Och det är någonting som formar med gruppen.
And this is approximately the maximum level of the two-tone signal, and that is minus 37. And this is the air spy.
Därför att det jag sa var just att om man inte blir stöd som man nog, utan man blir just kubad, blir mobbad, utsatt. Men normen för att vara man nog är att man skulle vara stark nog, då vill man ge igen.
This is where degradation starts. And the level is minus 38. And I reduce the gain.
Ja. Men exakt än att plocka upp de här killarna när de redan har blivit kriminella.
Nej, jag tänker att bakgrunden är så att mycket som människor ramlar när det är fakta. Det är andra kriminalprevention, det är ett sätt att förebygga. Sen måste vi göra det inte leva efter, men sen har skadat sig.
And here the level is minus 30 dBm. And I go to the fun cube.
Det här kan gälla alla och vi måste börja jobba tidigt med de här unga killarna.
Tack så mycket Karin Austin, projektledare för Myndigheten för ungdoms- och civilsamhällesfrågor.
When the LNA is on, the maximum level is minus 45 dBm. And I try to switch it off.
Det finns på nätet.
So this is the signal level I need to be able to hear something. And I will check the toe tone when it starts to interfere. It's about here. I will try a little bit on the gain button.
Först alltså auktoricitet. Hur känner man igen det? Maxim Hellberg är konstnär i Malmö.
So this is fairly readable. The signal level is minus 30. And now SDR play.
Fokus för skapandet. Varje vecka hade vi något som kallades för matsalsutställning, där varje elev fick ställa ut i skolans matsal under en... Konsteleven i fråga hade skrivit upp fula träreglar på väggarna. Målade i grundfärger.
So here we have some degradation with full gain on the unit, and that is minus 44 dBm.
Var att de här klossarna bara var en täckmantel, en distraktion från det egentliga experimentet. Varje dag den veckan kunde olika personer ha två knäckar och matcha i vår avfallande lekande. Sen en vecka en blinkis. Hans var en olika stil. Och trots att somliga tyckte det var märkligt att en blind kille sysslade med måleri var det oerhört mycket.
And I have to go to this point to get the LNA switched off. And now I can hear reasonably well. That depends that the signal is varying 1 or 2 dB up and down. The level here, that causes a problem. Let's see what it is. So the maximum, the level now is minus 30 dBm.
Liksom omgiven av en namnlös fara.
Now I've changed the AirSpy, the E4000 in the RTL dongle and the Blade RF to sensitivity mode. Those are the three ones for which Linrad today has the sensitivity versus linearity mode selection. Let's see what the interference level can be without a problem here.
Efter attacken mot World Trade Center 11 september 2001 och Bushs War on Terror.
So here is the limit, and it's IM3 that is the problem, and the level is minus 55 dBm.
Så trodde hon att hon skulle tjänstgöra någon helg månad hemma vid. Inte att hon skulle skickas till ett krig, för övrigt hennes första resa utanför.
And now 10 dB lower gain, and it's very noisy. And the strongest two-tone signal I can send into the dongle is minus 47 dBm.
Flera länder arméer och i stridande position.
And here is the Blade RF.
Tusentals kvinnor som tjänstgjorde i Röda armén under mordet av Svetlana Aleksejevich i boken Kriget har inget kvinnligt ansikte. Hennes bok har kallats för en slags ny på västfronten.
And this is the level for the Blade RF. It is minus 39 dBm. And I try to reduce the gain here.
I boken Kriget har inget kvinnligt ansikte finns intervjuer med hundratals kvinnor. Vid krigets utbrott trodde de på krig.
And it seems the level of the intermodulation doesn't change. Let's see. how much signal I can send in.
Nu var det lite reda på det. Det var först i januari förra året som det blev till stridande förband. Även om de i praktiken medverkat i strid.
So this is for blade RF minus 36.
I slaget vid Svensksund 1790. De kvinnliga förbanden som stred mot den franska kolonialmakten i nuvarande Benin. Till kvinnliga soldater i spanska andra. Den kvinnohistoriska tidskriften Historiska uppmärksammar för övrigt dessa spanska kvinnliga soldater i sitt premiärnummer. Här står inte rätten att som kvinna vara i stridande position.
And the air spy, the level here is minus 34. And reducing gain will be like this.
Amerikanska kvinnliga soldater.
About like that. This is minus 30 dBm.
Bakom det vi alla går runt och bär.
The two signals are now moved to a separation of 5 megahertz above the signal frequency, so they are on 95.702 and 100.700, because they have to be within the 88 to 108 megahertz passband of the filter that is in this system. I'm listening to the E4000 dongle with the RTL SDR system.
För Vetenskapsradions internationella miljöprogram Klotet. Programledare den här veckan.
And this is the level it can tolerate with a reasonable degradation. The level here is minus 39 dBm. And I can reduce the gain.
Billigt och väldigt användbart fett som används i allt fler produkter runt om i världen.
Here the signal is weak but copyable.
Till exempel i Indonesien. Orangutangerna dör i samband med avrättningen. Och nu ska vi till Indonesien och Malaysia igen, i länder som är absoluta centrum för utbildning och avverkning. Idag så ska vi se vad som görs för att rädda regnskogen och ändå fortsätta att använda.
And this is what it can tolerate in reduced gain. That is minus 32 dBm.
Kanske du som lyssnare, för att ge plats för ännu en oljepalmsplantage så att dina kakor ska bli lite billigare. Men nej, det är faktiskt tvärtom. Motorsågen här med sitt meterlånga svärd äter sig istället igenom en...
See when the pump is fall down.
Den prisbelönte miljöaktivisten Tessar Palevi.
So this level is okay for the FC0013 and it's minus 38.
gränsen till en skyddad skog.
And I reduced the gain.
As you see, the forest up there. Cesar Palevi har belönat sig för hans miljöprogram för sitt arbete med att rädda den utrotningshotade orangutangen. Och det gör han alltså.
And now I can copy at 15 dB gain reduction. It means that the signal level has increased by maybe 2 decibels or something. I don't worry about 1 or 2 decibels in this series of measurements. You have to look at the screen and compare the different dongles if you want more precision. And here is the level of the tones that degrades just a little. It is minus 30 dBm.
Så det är inte att undra på att det finns många som är beredda att tumma lite på reglerna och smälla upp olagliga palmträd inne i det skyddade skogsområdet.
Welcome to Toronto. Switch warning. Noise denied.
Som står inne i nationalparken.
Something like that for the R820T. This level is minus 29. And I reduce gain.
First of all, we identify from satellite images. And then after that, we do ground checking to make sure the satellite data is correct with the ground location.
Profilen som vi tar och som för övrigt också kan se på Kloters hemsida och se med ändlösa oljepalmplantager i de kräver vi hugger ner och bara i nationalparkens gräns. Resten är lagliga.
So I tried to optimize the signal with the gain control, but that didn't get much better. The level here is minus 22 dBm.
Palmolja. Där hölls i november 2014 en stor konferens.
And this is the Blade RF.
Det var organisationen RSPO som hade sin årliga träff. Runda bordet för hållbar palmolja.
The greatest achievement is that we certify 18% of all palm oil that's traded, that's sold globally, is certified as sustainable by the RSPO.
Vår största framgång är att 18% av all palmolja i världen idag är
something like this. The level here is minus 39.
Och alla de andra på konferensen.
And I now reduce the gain.
Liknande konferensrum på det bombastiska hotellet Shangri-La som ligger mitt bland skyskraporna i huvudstaden. RSPO är alltså branschens eget försök att komma till rätta med de miljöproblem som oljepalmodling har fått. Alltså hotade orangutanger, minskad biologisk mångfald och massiva koldioxidutsläpp på skogen. I folkbildningsmässigt presenterar som en av de största livsmedelsföretagen i världen och dominerat i RSPO, medlemmar av till exempel SDR, och svenska marknadsföretag.
So this is what I arrive at. Minus 34.
Trots att de som möts här är så olika så står de sida vid sida och talar med varandra om ett globalt miljöproblem, vilket för bara några år sedan inte var en självklarhet.
here. This level is minus 45. And I switch off the LNA.
Vårt mål är att i grunden förändra hela stratifierade olja ska inte vara någon liten nischad produkt utan revolutionera hela branschen. Inget litet mål nämligen. Men frågan är om från miljöorganisationer som anser att den konsensusstyrda organisationen är för långsam. Den stora globala livsmedelsföretag sitter i samma rum som miljöorganisationer. Ja, då tar det tid att enas igen. Ingen vill släppa efter. Resultatet är att det går framåt med snickigt steg. Den som är mycket kritisk är sociologen och agronomen Denise Bichet.
I will try another combination of gain settings. Switching off the mixer gain doesn't seem to be a very good idea.
Så länge bara 18% av oljan är certifierad så räcker det inte för att skydda skogen. Här på konkurrensen säger
the level here is minus 29. And now the air spy.
Var ute i skogen för att hugga ner. Det var just en sån där mindre plantage ägd av lokala företagare som inte bryr sig om hållbarhet. Och som Denise Bichet har tidigare arbetat för både miljöorganisationer och FN. Och i september förra året publicerade han en artikel där han pekar på vad det är som gör.
And here is some degradation of the air spy. This level is minus 33 dBm.
Vad man har gjort är
and a reduced gain.
System som ställer stora krav på alla inblandade men som inte i grunden förändrar situationen.
You have no interest though, you just come.
Länder i Europa som köper den lite finare certifierade oljan. Men de stora marknaderna i Asien, Pakistan, Kina och Indien, där det mesta av palmoljan säljs, är det nästan ingen som bryr sig om hållbarhetsmärkning.
You see the extremely high expectations for RSP.
Vi verkar ha väldigt höga förväntningar på RSP.
And here is the limit. And the level is minus 28 dBm. And I notice an interesting thing, and that is when I reduce the gain below minus 32 on the linear scale, the intermodulation in relation to the signal changes in the wrong direction. You see, signal goes down and intermodulation goes up. And I don't know exactly the reason for that, but it's in how the different stages are controlled. So maybe it is not optimum what I have done there. And now for SDR play.
Får ta en rejäl ekonomisk smäll för att få kalla sin olja hållbar. Men, säger Olivier, och tar fram hållbar olja, ja då är det ingen som vill ha den. Av de 18% av världens palmolja som anses hållbar enligt RSP.
And here is some degradation on the SDR play. The signal level is minus 43. It's a bit difficult to see the difference between 43 and 48, but that was 43. And with lower gain.
Tillverkarna verkar vara rädda för kostnaden, som han anser att de istället alltså vältar över på plantagen.
I think also some of the manufacturers for their product costs. And here in almost all of amount extrapolated money.
Like this.
And we will do it before we can less.
So this is the maximum interference level with reduced gain. That is minus 28 dBm. I have now changed again the tuner gain setting mode to sensitivity instead of linearity in those three that Linrad allows this to be done. And now it's the E4000 dongle.
Okej, där tar vi lämna Pelle sätter sig in i mataffären.
And here is the maximum signal level it can tolerate. It is minus 37 dBm. And I reduced the gain.
Avbryter vi nu programmet. Palmolja är kontroversiellt uppenbarligen.
And this is something like the limit at minus 30 dBm. And here is the blade RF.
Men med tiden så har vi upptäckt att det här palmoljeodlingen är mer svåra biverkningar. Som vi hörde om i
Så är ni ett livsmedelsföretag.
So it starts to degrade at this level, which is minus 35. And I reduce the gain. And the relation between the intermodulation product and the desired signal doesn't change. So the maximum level that can be tolerated is the same. It's still minus 35. And here is the air spy.
Det kommer att ta tid och det är överens inom koncernen att det är dit vi vill nå.
Nu hörde vi reportaget om det här RSPO-systemet.
Something like this could be the maximum. And this is minus 30 dBm. And I reduce gain.
Ska vara certifierad enligt RSPO.
En del produkter då.
And this doesn't help much. Let's see.
Ja, det gör det. Vi har sänkt vår förbrukning av palmolja med 75% sedan 2011. Så vi är en god bit på väg.
Here the level is minus 27. I will now compare sensitivities. And I will do that by measurement of FM quieting, which is a very good and fairly accurate method that is maybe not used as much as would be reasonable in the amateur community. First, I have to check that the bandwidth is the same in the different radius that I compare, and do that with the signal generator, moving the frequency to one edge of the passband, like that. And that is fairly similar in all the tuners. And then I move to the other side. And this way I know that the filters have the same bandwidth within a few percent. So I place the signal somewhere in the middle, and the SDR14 is used to measure the signal level in a narrow filter, which means that there is no noise, practically no noise. It will not affect the reading I can do in the S-meter graph. There we are, and I want to have the signal centered in the narrow filter like that, and the signal level is 26 approximately. So I tune it up, and it is now 26 on this arbitrary scale. In the upper right corner is an instance of Linrad listening to the microphone. I will now put the microphone on the loudspeaker and turn up the gain of the E4000 dongle, and then step up the signal level in steps of 2 dB. Up to this point, it's obvious that the step size on the audio volume increases as the signal level increases. We have from 77 to 73, that's 4 dB for a 2 dB change of the signal level. This is good for accuracy, and I have to move the scale to be able to continue. So here is the level where the quieting is steepest. The smallest change of the signal generator gives the biggest change of the noise in the loudspeaker. So it means that 10 decibels of quieting is a good level to go for, to get the good accuracy easily. So what I can do is just to measure the signal level required for 10 dB quieting in the different SDRs. And I read 32.19 for the E4000. I can now step up the gain to maximum gain to get the best sensitivity in linearity mode. And this is the level required for 10 dB quieting. So the FC 0013 is at 30.8. And that is in the standard mode for the dynamic range test. The best sensitivity is like this. With maximum gain, it's enough with 27.1 dB. That's about 3 dB better. The R820T is at 32.6, and I will try to turn up the gain. And you can hear how it becomes much more quiet. And now the level needed is 23.7. So it's far more sensitive. Blade RF 31.6, and I increase gain on it. And now the level required is 29.55, so it became a little bit better, but not so much. And the fun cube. The fun cube is special because of the center spur. So I expand the baseband graph to see the notch better, to make sure that the center spur is actually well within the notch. So the spur does not contribute to quieting. So the level for the fun cube is 23.6. But the fun cube, I bring up the gain and listen to how silencing goes on. And not much happened the latest 10 dB or something. And the signal level for 10 dB of quieting is now 22.0. Since I can move the noise floor very much by changing the gain, I will now turn down the gain and look at the level in the loudspeaker. And we can see an error of about half a dB, and that is presumably because of the noise near the center spur. So that makes some small inaccuracy to this measurement. The AirSpy needs 30.2 for 10 dB quieting when set to minus 16 dB. I will now turn up the gain. And now the level needed is 28.0. And here you could see that the noise level is independent on the gain. There is no center spur in the AirSpy. And the SDR play needs 25.8, and maybe this is a little uncertain because the noise floor is not flat. And that is because the noise contribution from the IF part. When I increase the gain, the noise floor will be flat and the reading correct. So at maximum gain, the SDR play needs 23.4 dB from the signal generator. Well, I have to check that the reading is correct because it was drifting out from the filter. I don't think that made any difference. We will see. I wait one more time for all the points to be, since after I move the signal frequency. 23.4. So that was unchanged. And this is now the AirSpy in sensitivity mode.